Welcome to the story room. Black sheep. They pulled onto the driveway, one by one, like lambs to a slaughter. Robert, control yourself. The days are over. The past is gone. He took a deep breath and walked away from the bedroom window. It was a clear day. Perfect. Perfect for a killing. No, it was perfect for a picnic. Maybe that's what he should do. He looked at the bottle of pills lying next to his bed. He lived alone now. After he had killed his fifth wife, he was always the black sheep of his family. But how black he was, though, was questionable. Taking the bottle of pills in one hand, he used his free hand to pry the lid open. His mouth dropped. The bottle was empty. Now his family was ringing the doorbell downstairs. It looked like he had to tough it out today. 10 a.m. "Robert," his mother exclaimed, instantly pouncing on him the moment he opened the door. "Hi, Mom," he said, embarrassed. "What are you embarrassed for? She's a dead woman. Stop." Now he took a deep breath and shook the hand of his father. He then proceeded to hug his sister. "I'd never thought you'd invite us, Robert," she said. "You were always sort of a black sheep, I guess." "I don't think being antisocial makes me the worst member of the family." He reminded her that his book on the study of sheep once had been a bestseller, in the sheep study section of Amazon, that is. "Well, it's good to see you guys," he said, looking around at their faces. "Such nice faces to wear." "Do you want to come in?" he asked them. They all eagerly stepped into the house. 11 a.m. The TV was blaring in the living room. His dad sat on the couch, silent. One would think that he was nothing but a couch potato. In recent years, he had gained quite a lot of weight. The truth was, he was shot through the neck in Vietnam. Robert had never heard his father's voice once in his entire life. When he was young, he would dream of a magical day when he woke up and his dad was next to him, talking to his mother in a rich, deep voice. Of course, that day never came. Until today. His dad turned his head toward Robert and opened and closed his mouth, pushing in imaginary bits of food in his mouth as he did so. Then he pointed at the clock in the wall. "Just one more hour, Dad," Robert reminded him. "Then you can create your masterpiece. One more hour until lunch. Can you wait? Are you hungry now? I can get you something." Robert turned around to grab some biscuits when he heard a large slamming sound behind him. His father had slammed the TV remote down onto a table. Robert looked back to catch his dad in the middle of shaking his head. Robert walked into the kitchen. His sister would usually help him cook, but she'd probably follow his mother out into the backyard to examine the wonderful anatomy of the flowers. The more time he spent away from people, the better. He never knew when he might break into a frenzy. He was humming a bit as he opened up the oven to take a look at the prime rib roasting inside. For a split second he saw something else, though. Something from a memory long forgotten. A head. His fifth wife's head. He had beheaded her when she had come home late one night. Her lipstick and hair was messed up, and his inner beast had just lashed out unexpectedly. Still a frenzy. He had stuck her head inside the oven to cook while he dragged the body outside, burying it in the garden. "Your sister's in the garden now. Won't you want to add her to your collection outside?" When he finished burying her, he was already gaining control of himself. He had rushed back inside when he had spotted a solitary black sheep grazing on the grass nearby. Of course, no one could interrogate a sheep, but in this case he wanted no one to know what he was doing, and that included his family. He rushed back in when he realized he had nothing to eat for dinner. He opened up a frozen TV dinner in the fridge and was about to stick it in the oven when he realized he'd left something in there. But the oven door was already hanging open. His wife stared up at him, her hair frizzled, the gold luminescence now solid black. The face had turned from something pretty to something resembling a zombie. Eyes hanging out, parts of the brain exposed. And then there was the mouth, still open in amazement from Robert slicing her with the axe. He used some mittens to take the head out of the oven. Gore spilling everywhere. He sliced it up, and realizing he didn't want to go back outside, reluctantly ate it bit by bit, trying to make the parts of the skull look like pork ribs. When he was done, he threw the bones away. He put the TV dinner in the fridge, and in an act of defiance to his inner monster, vomited it on the floor. It took him 3 days to clean the mess up. Gore and vomit. 12 p.m. Robert had a bell. He rung it every time he finished cooking meals. It didn't work very well due to the fact that he only used it when he was cooking meals, and also to the fact that he rarely cooked meals. Kill them, taste them, feel them. Lunch is ready, he called out. The back door opened and closed, and a few seconds later his sister and mother came in, talking about flowers. Can't you see the yellowness of this? His mother was holding a sunflower in her soil-covered hands. Soil was dripping onto the floor. Mom, only some things are truly beautiful. And this isn't, his sister replied. She looked at me. Sorry, she said. I'll clean it up. 3 days. His hands started shaking uncontrollably. He was in a battle with himself, trying to fight off the instinct while keeping his secret. Robert, don't go in there. His feet started moving. He knew what was going to happen next. A rage. And he was forced to watch as he killed. Run, he shouted. Robert, what's going on? Oh. Robert grabbed her by the throat and started choking her. His mother screamed and ran off. His father was still probably in the living room hiding. Better find out soon. He tossed the limp body of his sister on the ground as if she was just an oversized doll, her blank eyes staring up into the ceiling. Mary, he cried, but only his eyes cried. The rest of the body went outside the door toward the garden shed. As he closed in on the shed, it burst open, and his father came out with a hunting rifle, loaded. He tried to yell, but he could only make threatening gestures with his rifle. Robert walked on. 12:15 p.m. Bang! It missed. Robert kept on walking. Nearly there. What did you do to my sister, you sick little... I'll get you for that. Oh, yes, the anger good. He growled and leaped toward his father. His father only had time to fire off one shot before Robert got him onto the ground. Ah, his father grunted, as Robert brought his full weight upon him. He slashed at his father's face, slowly ripping it apart into little shreds. 2 blue eyes flew off and rolled onto the thick green grass. He finally stopped after about a minute, realizing that his fingers hurt. He looked at them, salivating. They were bleeding. The fingernails were probably off in the grass somewhere. He didn't care. The voice. It was everything I expected it to be. Your mother. She will be everything I expect her to be. He got up and started back toward the house. There was one more victim to claim, and that was the holder of the womb that gave him life. 12:30 p.m. The rage was great this time. Robert wondered if this was to be the last rage he'd ever have. Maybe. His vision was slowly getting blurrier, and his walking speed was slowing down. Why? He looked down. It looked like his father did miss after all. The entire left section of his white shirt was stained red. He was going to bleed to death if he didn't find first aid soon. We won't need first aid. Fueled by a sudden surge of adrenaline, he walked toward the door and pushed it open. When he went inside, he thought he could hear whispers. He strode into the kitchen, eyeing his dead sister on the floor, before grabbing a cleaver. He looked up. The whispers were coming from upstairs. Don't you dare call the police, Robert shouted. He heard a scream coming from his bedroom, and he walked there. It was getting harder to walk, one foot in front of the other. His feet were getting heavier. You can do it, come on. 12:45 p.m. As he was about to turn the doorknob, he heard his mother say something from inside. You can't kill me, she shouted. Let's see me try, he shouted back, and opened the door. She was cowering against the corner with nothing but space to guard her. He smiled. Now, he spread. His hands were shaking again. He was gaining control. Robert, his mother whispered. Run, Mom, come on, get out before I... And the control faded away. She was right next to him when he tightened his grip on his cleaver and swung it towards her head. It beheaded her instantly, just like with the axe. His inner beast having done its job, it released control over his body and he fell to the ground. Mom, he asked. No reply. He had no more strength. Maybe, just maybe, he could end this quickly. He crawled to the window, his vision getting blurrier. He was losing a lot of blood. The phone was still off its receiver, and he could hear a person on the other end shouting, "Ma'am, are you all right? We still need to get your address." The phone. Somehow, it's untrackable, ma'am. He picked up the phone. It's off the village, just to the right. Who is this? The officer at the other end shouted. I'm the person that killed my family, and the address is 15 Greenville Avenue. He dropped the phone. 1:15 p.m. He lay there silent, unbreathing. The sirens in the distance grew stronger and stronger until there were footsteps inside the house. In a matter of minutes, policemen were around and in the house, securing evidence in the bodies, trying to identify them. A detective walked through the yellow tape that surrounded the scene. "Officer," he asked, "where's the killer?" "Upstairs bedroom. Dead." The detective rubbed his chin. "Why do you think he did this?" he asked the officer. The officer shrugged. "I don't know. It was a drunken frenzy, I guess. But judging from how much blood he lost between the time his dad shot him and his death, it was something more. His sister always said he was the black sheep of his family," the detective offered. "Yeah," the officer said. "I guess it explains it." They looked at the scene in silence. "Any witnesses?" the detective asked. "Just the sheep. We still have some questioning to do, but this place is so remote that I think no one came to watch the show." "You mean that guy?" the detective pointed to a solitary black sheep grazing on a hill in the distance. The officer shrugged again. "Yeah, the black sheep."